Yay! Welcome, welcome. I am so happy to see all of you. I'm Sherry Reichert-Ballou, author of Say It Now, 33 Creative Ways to Say I Love You to the Most Important People in Your Life. And today we are celebrating Thanksgiving because we're not going to be meeting next week. So today is our Thanksgiving show or group or meeting. And I'm really excited that we have Irene. Hi, Irene. And Ronnie, where'd you go? There you are, Ronnie. Both of whom I just adore. You're both so colorful and alive and glad and grateful. And I think that it's going to be just what the doctor ordered today. So, and thank you to all of you who are here and participating. Let's just hop in. Irene, let's start with you. Why don't we have you just do a quick introduction of who you are and what your work is, and if you'd hold up your book for us so that we get a chance to see it.
My name is Irene O'Garden. I am a poet, a writer, an essayist, and this is my latest book from Mango called Glad to be Human, because I am, and I hope you are too. And it's a collection of short pieces, mostly short. Some of them are longer travel pieces, mostly about daily occurrences and why they make me glad to be human. And then there are some longer travel pieces which also make me glad. But I also think that being glad is a really important thing for us, especially when we're receiving a lot of information that might lead us to believe that the human race is less than a desirable species. And we actually are quite a wonderful species. And so that's what the book is about. Sherry asked if I would read a piece from it, and it'll give you an idea of what the pieces are and the length of them and so forth.
Awesome.
And this piece is called Tending Pleasures. I keep close track of the fruits of age. The joy of tending is one of the juiciest. Some come early to this appreciation, parents especially, but as a rhapsodist of creativity, I came late. For years, it escaped my notice that tending is actually the foundation of creation. The early will-based verbs of youth, exploring, creating, acquiring, establishing, can harden into nouns in middle age. Expansion, mastery, collection, accumulation. In age, these pale next to the nearly parasympathetic verbs of tending and releasing. In age, we learn to tend what we have and who we are, and to release that which we cannot tend wholeheartedly. We recognize the old shapeshifter need will rise again and again, but that her shape-shifting sister tend is always at the ready, to oil the thirsty wood, to weed the bed, to soak the ragged cuticles, to read to the child, to help with the move, to work the phones, to clear the rubble. Need and tend the great systole and diastole of our human heart, unified playing field of life in all her forms, colossal pump of love. To learn to love in every circumstances may be why we came. To learn that love itself needs tending, and tending is love itself.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, Irene. That was even better getting to hear you read it than I love it. Irene knows I particularly love that particular. Your writing is so beautiful and so many, so evocative. So many images and details. But I was thinking when you were reading that just now too, that tending is really also gratitude, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a way of showing gratitude. It's a reverence. It's a quality of attention that also then makes more gratitude possible when you are giving yourself to a person to yourself, to the objects that you value, to the energies, to the children, to whomever, whatever. If we offer that ability that we all have to take care, we just feel the gratitude uprising for even being able to do that. You know, from time to time, we can think about, there are people who do not have things to care for, people to care for. And it is a great, great blessing to be able to have people and things and processes that we can take care of.
Thank you. What a beautiful introduction. And so, Ronnie, that leads us straight to you, right, with gratitude. Will you be so kind as to introduce yourself and show us your book?
Of course. I'm Ronnie Walter. I am a writer, an artist, and I also help artists find ways to move their work further into the world. My book is called Gratitude with Attitude. I will not read from it because it's a fill in the blank. But, it'd get really boring fast. But anyway, it is it's a fun, basically, it's a gratitude journal for the rest of us, for the people that have shorter attention spans and are looking for a way to capture gratitude without feeling the burden, if you will, because some people feel it's a burden to keep a daily journal. So this is an easy way to move through that, but still capturing those moments during your day. So each one is just 3 little places to capture moments of gratitude, little extra things that were cool that don't necessarily fit into the gratitude bucket. But so it's just a fun book to have around, and then you can, it's just easy. It's easy for the last thing you do before you go to bed is to fill in your little half page. So that's the book. I like it a lot. I've gotten some good feedback on it because people are like, oh, I don't need another job. I'm like, do I have the book for you? So that's the way to do that. That's the way to do that. So that's what I do.
Hey, would you do us a favor and just hold it up close? Because one of the things I love is the design of the book. I mean, an open page, because I think when people see it's really delightful. So there's all sorts of, did you do all those drawings, Ronnie?
I did. Well, you know, I draw coloring books. I have over 25 coloring books out on the market. So yeah, these are all hand drawn little cutie things. Can you see them?
Yeah, I wanted people to be able to see. To me, that what your journal does is it's inviting, right? It's different than a lined notebook, or like, to me, those, I don't know. It's like, I agree with you. They're so like bite-sized little things that we can feel good about.
Well, what's interesting, I think, in the way, I mean, I wanted it drawn like a sketchbook so that it would feel like the user felt like they drew them, because you can color them in if you like. And the one thing I've learned about publishing all of these coloring books is once I draw them and they go out, they're not mine anymore. They're not drawing a Ronnie Walter picture and go, look what Ronnie Walter did. They look what I did. Look at the picture I made, and they make it into their own. And so that's the idea behind this particular gratitude journal is it's yours now. And if you want to color it in with ballpoint pen or markers or whatever, or not at all, or doodle on top of my doodles, go for it, because it becomes yours. It's like an organic, it just moved on to the next person. And I love that. I've never seen anyone's gratitude journal because they are kind of private. But it would be fun to see how people doodle on top of those doodles.
Yeah. I love
Plus,
that.
I'm nosy, so I would like to see what they're grateful for.
I love that. And Ronnie, I appreciate that you started us off. I don't know if everyone was here when I asked if anyone had something lovely to share today, but when you talked about seeing dolphins, and I think that's a perfect example, right, of something like that for your journal, like that we could just put dolphins, in blue or something, and it would express that joy.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily, unless I'm in the mood to express everything I feel about dolphins, I can just go, I saw dolphins.
Right.
And that was really cool. And if I want to write about dolphins later, I got another journal for that.
That's right.
But
That's right.
it's for the rest of us. It's for the rest of us.
I love it. I love it. So Irene, I'm going to come back to you for a minute and sort of plant us in this moment of time. I mean, most people here know that we started doing these heart panels when the pandemic started because we wanted a way to bring some positive energy, some, you know, hopeful outlook. And here we are all these months later. So I always like to ask our authors, what are you doing for yourself personally to take care of yourself during this time?
Well, I would say I'm being careful with nutrition. I'm being careful with exercise. I'm trying to supply the basic bodily good care for myself, because in this very muddy, you know, Laurie Anderson calls this the bardo, which I think is really exactly what it is. It's like that state between, and everything is so muddy and cloudy and all of that, that the single thing that I know that I can do is to remember that I'm in a physical body every day and to take as good care of that as I can. And then to see what other intuitions come knocking, you know? So is it going outdoors right now? Is it, I've gone over some journals. I'm trying to care for the thoughts that I have had that have not found their homes yet. And that's been very revealing, because it shows the arc of my own development. So that's a helpful thing. And then I could sort of cherry pick and go, well, how can I send this one out? How can this help? And the other thing that I've done is to try to create a sort of online home for my attitude, if you will, which is, as you know, being glad to be human. So I know you know this, but I've started a bi-weekly Facebook Live show called Glad to Be Human, where I interview people about what makes them glad to be human, because I think we can't really hear enough about what is wonderful, even in this challenging time. And I always try to take a little quiet time every day. So the self-care piece is pretty important to me.
Yeah. Well, and what I'm hearing is it's both, right? It's like taking care of your body and taking care of following your intuition and having that quiet time, and also surfing, you know, that's also a piece of what you're doing, is by sharing, like you said, what'd you say, a home for your attitude? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I love that you and Ronnie both have attitudes. That's awesome. Yeah. So thank you. I love that. How about you, Ronnie? How have you been taking care of yourself?
Oh, well, personally, I've been baking, so.
Yeah.
Tell us,
Whatever.
What have you been baking?
Well, you know, in the beginning, because we didn't really know kind of the arc of time, I think it's different now than in the beginning, because I sort of put on my type A hat and was like, well, by golly, if I'm going to be at home all the time, which I am anyway, because I'm a freelancer, I am going to, oh my goodness, I'm going to make use of every second here and make this worth it, so I can come on the other side of this going, well, I wrote a book. So I wrote a 70,000 word manuscript of a cozy mystery. I wrote one a couple years ago, and I thought, you know, I probably should write a sequel, because it's been like 4 years. Anyway, so I wrote it like in this sort of powering through. And then I got to the end of it and I thought, ugh, I kind of hate this thing. So I made a monster. And so I'm like, oh no, I need to go back to the second draft. And you're supposed to, you know, and we all know, stay away from it for a little while and then come back. Every time I've gone back to it, I'm like,
Ronnie.
So anyway, it's living there. And so then I just realized that I had to sort of find a different rhythm instead of an intense industry that I was going to put myself into, like the Ronnie Factory. And I realized that I wanted to read more. I wanted to, you know, I live in Southwest Florida, as Rachel knows. You walk outside most of the year and you spontaneously combust from the heat. And so it's not really conducive to walking a lot. And so, but I realized that I was not feeding sort of my intellectual curiosity, and I started reading more and knocking off earlier and not worrying that I haven't done anything with the 70,000 word manuscript, that it will come in time, and being a little more forgiving of myself, especially when we realize like, oh, this isn't going away, is it? So
Yeah,
I
right.
had to learn sort of a new pace and a new rhythm of what my days were about. And I feel like that is obviously in all of our lives all the time. That is a constant reset and kind of rejiggering things to see what works. But I really started to look at rhythm and when I'm most creative, and why am I pushing myself to be the Ronnie Factory when I can just, you could read a book if you wanted to. So that's sort of, it came to me in sort of waves of sort of, I mean, I would not call it manic because it's not manic. It was just like, I felt a need to make this worthwhile. And then I realized that wasn't really necessary to do that. So I've just been paying more attention to how I spend my days and working on the things that I feel are not super challenging. I haven't completely become a couch potato or anything, but I've realized that there is a balance that I need to have that I haven't really recognized before in my life. I was always like super project oriented.
Mhm.
Ronnie, I love that. You use both the words rhythm and balance, which really, they resonate with me right now too. Just that idea of like, it feels like, tell me if this is true, that you're paying close attention, right? So when it was time for the Ronnie Factory, which it was at one point, you were Ronnie Factory. And then at some point baking came in, which I love, you know.
Oh, that's always my stress release. I just think I'll make up some cookies. And so that works. And then my husband started baking bread. So as far as I have a new body since then, why, yes, I do. But it didn't necessarily go in the direction that, it's supposed to, but whatever.
I love it.
But we're not spontaneously combusting anymore, so we can walk more and get outside.
Oh, Ronnie, thanks. And I always appreciate your humor. Every time I've talked to you, it's like, and we need it right now, right? Like, that's a way that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, Irene, I'm coming back to you.
Sure.
So I sort of said at the beginning that we're not meeting next week. And so I'm personally celebrating Thanksgiving with all of you right now. Like, this is our Thanksgiving connection. So I just wanted to ask you, you're obviously glad to be human. You talk to a lot of people about being glad to be human. And I just like to hear, like, so what wisdom, thoughts, offerings do you have in light of this kind of upside down Thanksgiving time that we have, where a lot of people can't be doing the things they might normally be doing with the people they normally would spend the holidays with?
Well, I think it's really interesting that, while we will have to let go of some traditions, at the same time, whenever that happens, that wakes us up. It means we have to be extremely paying attention. All right, well then how are we going to do it if we're not doing it with the 20 people that we usually do it with, who we really love? And, how do we express the gratitude, which is still barreling through us? And many of us have a great deal to be grateful for this year in terms of, what's going on in our own lives. So I think it helps us just get really clear. So you go, okay, every habit we have had practically this year has had to be broken. Our habits of transportation, our habits of connection with one another, our habits of eating or shopping or whatever. And, when the smoke clears, there's no guarantee it's going to look anything like it did when we entered this period. But the emotion is still there. The human presence is still there. So we we will have to find other ways to communicate that. So am I getting together with family members? I won't be doing that, but there will be phone calls, there will be, and usually we have a large Thanksgiving with some friends. And we, in New York, they're saying no more than 10 people. We had invited a couple of people for Thanksgiving at our house. We're waiting to hear whether they can make it. And if they come, then we won't see those friends that we always see every year. But we'll see them the next day or another time. And we begin to realize how flexible really this stuff all is. It's not that it has to be the last Thursday and that, you know, in November is the only time we could get that. No, but you go like, oh, okay. I'll never forget the first Christmas that I spent by myself. I was living with the man who became my husband, but he was out of town on a job. And I didn't have money to go home. So here I was in New York City. What was I going to do? How was I going to observe Christmas by myself? Because there weren't that many, I don't know what friends were doing for Christmas, but it didn't feel like, that just didn't feel right. I thought, no, I should have a Christmas by myself. So what will I do? So I decided, I had never been to the top of the Empire State Building by myself. So I went to the top of the Empire State Building, and at that time they had these these photographers where you could put on old-timey things and have a portrait taken. Well, actually, it's one of my favorite portraits. It's this portrait that I had of me in some bonnet or something. And you know, I still value that. And so it was a Christmas like no other. These will be holidays like no other. But I think we're going to find some really interesting creative ways to connect and to create.
Oh, Irene, I love that. I love that. I mean, I love what you're saying, because I think you started with waking up or awakening, right? That it's when we can't just do what we normally do, it does bring us into the moment in a new way. And I think also, just adding on to what you're saying, that it's like, we're creating something in the moment that's going to be brand new. And there is an energy and a life force to that. And I hear it when you're talking about it in your voice, you know? So yeah, thank you.
Well, you know,
and
I think,
if you need suggestions for celebrating, Sherry's book is
so
really
true.
full of great ideas.
Well, you know, I do think that the idea that things get mixed up, because frankly, when particularly family groups, they tend to do the same thing over and over, and it's super predictable. And sometimes it's, I'll use the B word, it can get a little boring. It's like, oh, this is about the time when all the men leave the room and go watch football and whatever. And I am grateful that I do not have to smell or see green bean casserole this year, because I told my husband, we're not having it, the two of us. So we will have something green, but there are certain things where you're like, okay, that's a little mini gift right there. But I do think that there are ways that we can go, yeah, do we need that? And then when we come around again next year, maybe we will kick some of the more tired things or the people that feel an obligation to the curb, and it will be replaced with something more fresh. At the minimum, the conversation will be about last year when it was during the pandemic. And so there will be new conversations instead of, so how you been? And so I do think that this is it's a way to sort of reset some of these things that weren't all, you know, not everything was great about your family Thanksgivings. And so this might be a way to sort of, you know, shake it up a little bit.
I love it. Liz Marie, did you have your hand up, or were you waving to some? Okay. I thought you were really excited to join in. Which makes me ask, does anybody have anything to add at this point? Because I think this, oh, Marlena, I see you down there. Yeah.
You are both delightful, and I love the awakening aspects that you're talking about, and the kicking some people to the curb and throwing the green bean casserole out. It's delightful. Thank you. I love it that Irene, yours is about gladness and happiness, and Ronnie, your book is about gratitude. And I've been thinking just recently about how we often think that when things are going well in our lives and when we're happy, things are going well, we're happy, then we can be grateful. And how it's really very much the other way around. And that gratitude is the choice we make every day. And that gratitude brings happiness, as opposed to, oh, well, when I'm happy and things are good, I can be grateful, and turning it around and just waking up every morning and saying, I am grateful. And that leading to such deep and pure joy and gladness. And so I love that both of your books sort of brought that together. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Marlena, what a beautiful, beautiful point. I don't want to brush past that, because I think you're actually pointing to something that is essential, right? That it's, what comes first. If we're always thinking we have to just have everything line up, or the outcomes we want, or life to look like we want, and then we'll be grateful, man, that's not going to be, it's going to be a hard road, I think, in my own experience. So I love that you brought that up. And just to give a quick nod, because your book just came out last week, and I just want to congratulate you on that. And your book is a perfect example, if I might say so, of some really difficult, hard, challenging times. And I'm not going to give anything away, but the gifts from that, that we could be grateful for.
Thank you for that, Sherry.
Yeah.
Tell us your title again, please. Tell
The
us
title
the
of my
title.
book?
Yeah.
It's Nothing Bad Between Us. A Mennonite missionary's daughter finds healing in her brokenness.
Wow.
Wow.
And for any of you who are interested, I'm going to be in your seat on the 2nd of December, I think. And
Yay.
asking
Okay,
questions.
great.
But let's get back to your book. So thank you. And again, thank you for the spark of joy and awakening that you bring to this time. It's lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Rachel.
Hi. Oh, I love hearing both of you. Irene, you have one of the greatest reading voices I have ever heard. It is so beautiful. For some reason, it just your words just went through me. And I love that, because that's not one of my strong suits. So to hear someone else's, that it just flows so beautifully, and it really made your voice somehow makes the words resonate even more.
Oh,
so I'm so grateful for that. And Ronnie, with your humor, I love it. That's how I'm getting through every day right now. It's it is I have to have humor every day. I have to go to my humor every day. I have to find the comedy in some of the delusionalists, in the delusion.
Right.
I have to find the comedy. And and I'm a single mom with 2 teenagers. So I need it all areas of, of
Totally.
things. And
Totally.
and I write a blog right now, is daily aligning with love, abundance, and peace. And every day it's gratitude and a challenge. So for me, it has to start with gratitude. And I've been doing it for 110 days now. And I have been amazed at these little things that I'll notice, and people will be like, you seem a lot calmer. I'm like, yes, rock on. Especially when dealing with the kids. I'm not getting as reactive and all that. And I'm like, even with pandemic and 2 sick kids, I'm like, all right, I can do this. But it's just, what a beautiful gift, and for Thanksgiving, gratitude, gladness, it all is such a huge joy. And I'm very grateful to be here. And I love seeing everybody's faces in this room. I mean, every time if it's every week or every once in a while, it doesn't matter, because it's just I light up. And so on Wednesdays, it's just this reason to have this perma grin and have my face hurt for the whole next day. I love it.
Can I ask, Rachel, that was so great. where are you finding your comedy? What trees do you pluck from?
So I love stand-up comedy, and Netflix and Amazon Prime are loaded now with stand-up comedy. And then there's dry bar comedy that's on Facebook that I'm constantly looking at their clips. And then if I need the political comedy, I go to the Daily Social Distancing Show and
well, I think humor particularly right now is like a palate cleanser for everything else. It's like it just kind of washes some things away, because we just can't stay in the hair on fire state of being at all times. And so that is the thing that is the salve that kind of covers over that. And I don't know how. My mother-in-law, who is a lovely, lovely person who is of the Scandinavian persuasion, and they don't not necessarily a funny group of people, but she used to say she loved it when I came over because there was laughter in their house. And I used to think that was so sad, because I think, there were these two little old people, I guess I didn't have a lot to laugh about by then, but it was one of those situations where I just think, what a loss when people don't find the thing that, and some people, humor is such a subjective thing. Like sometimes you're like, how is that funny? Like I've never really loved slapstick, that's, pratfalls and all that kind of stuff has never really done it for me. But smart, clever humor is like, here's something there. But one of the things you said, Rachel, about this, doing it for this 110 days, that I think that when you start to recognize moments of gratitude, when you just pluck these little moments, it's like money in the bank. It accumulates. It's like a little pile of jewels that you get to draw from on the days that aren't so fun, or that you can flip back in your journal and just say, oh, that was a pretty good day. That was pretty cool. And I've had that experience since, and I didn't recognize that. And so I think it is like, it's just like little money in the bank for you to draw from on the other time. And gratitude is an action as much as it is a feeling. And by marking it down, that's when you get to see the culmination of all those moments strung together. You go, it's okay. It's okay. We're good.
Oh, Ronnie, I love that. And it just made me think of something this week. Some of you have talked about this before, that I have, it's called recording and listening. So I make audio notes for myself and listen to them all the time. They're kind of like self-coaching. And I recently found a gratitude recording that was my beau and I had made together of all the sunsets we've seen. We just tried to remember, which of course we can't remember all of them, but because we can't travel right now, this was such a perfect, like I sent it to him, and it was like exactly like you're saying, like money in the bank. Like it just filled both of us up with like re-experiencing all of those sunsets all over the place that we can't go now, but we could visit them again, and you could hear, the sounds behind us. And so I love that you said that. I think that that's so important, and just a nod back to your journal, that it's like flipping through all that joy, right? Like that, or the same with, Irene, your book too, right? Like you flip through it. I'm sure you do. You're seeing all of these moments. So I love that idea. Anybody else want to jump in?
No pressure.
Never any pressure.
Is anybody facing a really unusual, a terrifically unusual Thanksgiving?
Ooh. Irene, that's an interesting question.
We're making a bit of an unusual plan. The family that I usually see here is not going to gather. Thankfully, I wouldn't have gone anyway, but thankfully they're going to be smart and not gather. But my husband's, what is she now? 103, I believe. She still lives in Orange County on her own.
Wow.
He got the good genes. My parents are long gone. But anyway, one family member there has been dropping groceries to her, things like that. And so they're making arrangements, because she has an iPad that she uses to read books. because she can make it huge because she has vision problems and hearing problems. So they are trying to figure out basically how to get her on Zoom. This is a woman who's never had a smartphone. And they're trying to figure out how to safely like get N95 masks. So they go in with an N, so that, and try to figure out how to get her, because we've been Zooming, the family has Zoomed, I don't know how, anyway, across because we have family on both coasts and other places across. I'm in Ohio, we have family in Indiana, people in, all over the coast in California. And so that's our crazy thing we're going to do. And I just want to say that both of your books sound like they're going to make great gifts. So I think I'm going to be picking up some copies for people, because I just think, and that's kind of where my radar is right now. There's a lot of people actually on this call whose books will make great gifts, let me just say.
Including yours.
Including
yours, Nita.
Yeah, but I think that there's quite a few people on here I can see whose books are going to make great gifts. So thank you, and thank you for sharing about the gratitude. I am not a naturally grateful person, so it's always good for me to be reminded. I think I have a positive attitude, but I don't go to the I can exercise gratitude. As opposed to thinking of it as something that ought to come naturally and feeling this shame that I don't have that, proclivity. So thanks for making it fun too. And thanks Sherry always, and the Mango people, Debbie's here, I see, for doing their weekly thing. Thank you.
Anita, that is an interesting point about there's this flip side of gratitude where we have heard, maybe directed at us, or maybe we've actually said these words to another person around, you should be more grateful. You should be grateful for what you have, what you do. And sometimes I think that's gotten a little sullied, because then the next place you go to is guilt. It's like, yeah, I probably should, man, I suck, So this this spiral of, it's like, no, we want to stay up here at the top where it's, the gratitude. But I think there is that, there are those moments and people go, why aren't they just more grateful? And you're like, that's not really your decision of what other people's gratitude looks like. You don't get an opinion on that. It comes from them. It's in their bodies, not yours. And so I'm always very careful of that, because that's a language thing that can turn into something that sounds very dismissive or elitist. But it's a beautiful thing when used properly, like many things. But we can go into that spiral of sort of that negative self-talk about, well, why am I not more grateful? That's why I know this is an unpopular opinion, but that whole counting your blessings things is like, you start counting your blessings and you're like, oh man, I really suck that I don't think about this all the time. And it really can induce bad feelings, when even though it's supposed to be a positive thing. And so that's why I like to think of gratitude as just this buoyant, lovely thing that gets to bounce from person to person, as opposed to bringing it down to an expectation of someone else, to your standards of how grateful a person should be. Because it's not your decision.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Great point.
Thanks for recognizing that, Ronnie. I think that's really important. My kind of wheelhouse in the world is mental health. And so a lot of the messages that to most of the population feel very positive, can be helpful, are intended as beneficial, can be heard as criticism. And it's never intentional. It's always like, okay, this works for you, this works for me. So I appreciate the fact that you said that. And I sense that, in I don't know, your book and Irene's book too, that it's like we have to come to it from where we're at. And so that's just a really good sensibility for each of us to have, that we're just not always there. And I also, I'm a pretty strong meditator. And so observing what is, as opposed to trying and watching it arise, as opposed to trying to force it, is also part of it. But making a gratitude journal. Okay, so I sit and I take your book, and maybe today I'm not there, but I can take the actions anyway. And then tomorrow I am there, you know? So we just like hold it with open hands, open heart, open mind. So
Great point. Yeah.
Well, you know, interesting. That's the reason I didn't want it to be dated too, because then that adds the, there's 6 weeks here, I haven't been grateful.
Yeah.
I suck, you know, I mean, it always goes back to that. And so when you put days of the week on something or dates on something, then but this is so that you can just plug back in. It just is and there are no gratitude police, you know, checking, excuse me, I think you missed Wednesday. And so it just is just an easy, I mean, you could do it on index cards, although this is far cuter. But I think that doing it, and to Rachel's point, and you know, habit, I'm fascinated by habit as well. That 100, there's a lot of artists that do 100 days projects. I don't know if you guys are keyed into that, 100 days of something. And I mean, some people get a little narrow. It's like, I'm going to do 100 days of cows. And I'm like, yeah, you can't draw 100 different cows in 100 days, but you can get a little broader than that. But the idea that when something like in the art side of things, when you do something for 100 days or write 100 haiku or whatever, you end up with 100 of something, which is 100 more than you had 100 days ago, which is as much math as I can give you right now. But I do think that there's something about that accumulation that happens, like Rachel saying that she's at 110 days. I mean, you don't want to break that chain. You do not want to break that chain. And so that is a huge incentive for keeping things moving. And it just, again, it's like putting a penny in the bank every single day. And that you get to draw from it. You get that. It never goes away.
I love that. I love that idea. I have an idea in my head that I call creating evidence. I love, and to me, that's exactly what you're doing. When you do 100 things, you're creating evidence for the fact that you can do this thing. Or if you are writing in a gratitude journal, you are creating evidence that you are aware of your gratitude, that you're creating your gratitude. And I think one of the most liberating ideas is that we can essentially create any evidence for any kind of a world we want. And you just have to be present when you're thinking what it is you're thinking. And that's I think one of the good things about the pandemic that has stopped us from these habits and is making us go, all right, so what am I thinking about myself? What am I thinking about the world? Is it what I want to create? And if it's not, we don't have to do it. You know? It's like, oh, okay. A friend of mine, here's just another example. A friend of mine let me put it this way. I love getting back too much change. Yeah, when a cashier gives me too much change, because then I can go, oh, you gave me too much change, here it is. And the person goes, wow, you're really honest. And I'm going, no, this belongs to you. But when that happens, I have created evidence for myself, and I've created evidence for that person in 3 dimensions that's not on a page, that the world is a good place. And we have these opportunities around us all the time. So I love that idea of kind of, making a habit of the way you want the world to be, making a habit of perceiving those things. Anyway, you got it.
No, that was awesome, Irene. Linda.
First of all, as a Jersey girl, I'd like to say thank you for the attitude today. Appreciate that. Very nice for me. A little attitude about gratitude is always a good thing. To follow up on that, Irene, what I was thinking about as we've been talking is a couple of years ago, we went on a trip, my daughters and my husband and I, to Italy for 2 weeks. And I took with me a quote that said, assume a kind world where everything you need is everywhere you go.
Oh, wow.
And that was our motto for the journey. Wow. Kind of like being grateful in advance. And of course, you're traveling, so everything didn't go right every day. But I kept returning to that quote as my reminder that I can assume there's a kind world and everything I need will be there. And so it's kind of like having gratitude in advance, like
Mhm.
banking it, like you were talking about. You know, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it, or you have to have something that will remind you that
Mhm.
you will find your way back to gratitude, or that, you know, even though it looks like this right now because there's a pandemic, you know, there's a lot of good things happening. If I look somewhere else for it, I can find it, as opposed to the news where I won't find it. So
Right.
it's
That is totally right on. I mean, the idea that there's a lot of good stuff happening. Either we are recognizing patterns that we don't like anymore and are going to kick to the curb,
Mhm.
people that we're quite happy not to be spending time with, or that we're inviting people in that really are people, you know, that you get us, and that we can have, you know, just feel like there are positivities. I think it's going to be a real interesting, the way work life is going to change, all of these things, how we educate children, all of this stuff to me is really exciting, because we are in a giant experiment of what works and what doesn't. I mean, our educational system is just like, whoa, we're looking at this differently, and how children learn and all of that. I think that there are so many opportunities right now for interesting things to happen that are positive.
Yeah, we get to create a new.
Despite the news, despite that.
Yes.
But
And
yeah,
one of the
looking
things I
for
found-
that and expecting it is a really great twist, for sure.
I love
Yes.
that. That is a
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, yes.
Would you say that
And
quote
the
again?
unexpected thing. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Would
say
you
it again.
please say that quote again?
Oh, assume a kind world where everything you need is everywhere you go.
Mm. Ah, love it.
And the sticker that it had, it was Patty Dye. I don't know if she wrote it, but I bought the sticker at her camp, so I'm not sure if it was a quote from her or if it was just a quote that she liked. But one of the things I discovered that I'm happy about that I didn't realize I would be is that I get to decide what we're going to have for Thanksgiving. I don't have to go somewhere else and only have what's there. So that was a nice thing.
Yay.
I love that. Thank you, Linda.
So did anyone want to share what they're grateful for, or anything come up for you while we were talking? Is anyone want to share what they're grateful for today?
I just wanted to say one more thing that I forgot. I'm making a double batch of green bean casserole.
Knock yourself out, Nina. Go for it. I could eat all the mashed potatoes. I want all the mashed potatoes.
Ronnie, I love that. I'm going to start us off because I was just feeling it right when you said that. So what I was feeling and thinking about is that I like to, because I grew up and was always disappointed. Like that was just my thing. I was just a disappointed person. And it might have been like, oh, it's Thanksgiving and it doesn't look like I thought Thanksgiving was supposed to look like, you know, my father left us and this and that. But what's happened over the years is this idea of creating what we want when we want it. And I feel as if like, so there was a moment, I don't even know, I think it was when Linda was talking about that beautiful quote where I just looked at all of you and I was like, Thanksgiving, right? Like to me, this is like, yes, I could be sad about Thanksgiving next week, that Thursday, not looking like what I had, you know, wanted it to be, but there's this, right? There is this, and that goes back to Nita and being in the moment. And it's like this moment now, I'm grateful for Thanksgiving with you beautiful people. Most of you whom I didn't even know a year ago at Thanksgiving. So that's my gratitude.
I'm going to piggyback on that because mine is so close to yours, Sherry. So during this time of COVID, when we can't go to bookstores physically to launch our books, which people told me, you know, so sorry, Marlena, that your book is coming out during this time. It's such a terrible time. Well, I am building connections, you all being some of them, childhood acquaintances, people from across the globe, because I'm doing this virtually.
Mm-hmm.
So many more connections. And I am so grateful for that.
Oh.
And you are all part of that.
Wow. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Cool.
Rachel.
I'll go in for the gratitude. I love this. you know, like both of you have been saying with the, you know, this, what COVID's created with the Zooms. I mean, I've got to participate in events. I've got to meet people from across the country, across the world that I would have never talked to, that I would have never had that this opportunity to be a part of. And it overwhelms me with gratitude, because I was, before COVID happened, I was feeling a little disconnected from my local people. Like I wasn't feeling like I had a circle that represented me as a whole. And so with Zoom and with this, I've found my people. I have found, and I am so grateful for that, because now I love what I see daily. I love the connections daily. I get to talk to people weekly that I have a smile on my face for days for it. I'm not struggling to connect, I'm connecting. And
Wow.
Such
That's a big
beautiful
distinction.
Yeah. It's just, it's such just a beautiful thing. And you know, to get chills from conversations on a regular basis, how awesome is that? You know, it's like when you're connecting to people on that level, and you don't have to be in the same room to understand that you could be across the world for them and still have that feeling when you're talking to the person that's just saying something that resonates so deep that you chill. You know, it's just such an amazing thing. So thank you.
Lovely.
I'll go. Okay, Linda and then Shelby.
Either way.
No, it's okay. You go. You go.
Well, I mean, I'll add my gratitude. I posted it this earlier today about how grateful I am for these Wednesday gatherings, because they are a bright spot in my week, and for the heart connections I've made here in this group, and I'm so grateful for that. But I, you know, from this year, one of the things that I am grateful for amidst all of the things that have been happening is really the opportunity to kind of redefine what community means to me and what's important in that community. What was okay to let go, and what things I absolutely don't want to let go of. And redefining who's in that community, and how it feels to me, like Rachel, you were saying, those moments of chills that you get that you didn't expect. I've had opportunities to connect with people that I wouldn't have had an opportunity to connect with, but I've also had opportunities to get glimpses of life in a different way. So it's provided perspective, a different kind of perspective. I'm really grateful to have that. And it helped me define what's important to me and where I want to use my voice, where I want to go, where I want to put my money, put my energy, put my love. And it's really provided that opportunity. And I'm really grateful for that, even though it was very challenging, a lot of it.
Beautiful. Shelby.
Yeah. So talking about people that we're grateful for, my mind automatically goes to my brand new niece, who Debbie and the interns know I talk about literally any chance I get. So I'm bringing her up now. She's almost 3 months old. And so, you know, my sister, she was pregnant from the beginning of the pandemic, you know, up until my niece was born in September. And it was terrifying the entire time, because that's supposed to be something that's only exciting. Like, I'm going to be an aunt for the first time, the first baby in our family. But it was terrifying because my sister is like at her most vulnerable during the scariest time. And so going from just being absolutely terrified and worried about her, and then all of a sudden we have this brand new life into our family who she's nothing but love. She's nothing but light and growth. And it's really great to hang out with someone who has no idea what's going on. Like, she doesn't know there's a pandemic. She doesn't know where her nose is. Like, she doesn't know anything. And so it's just, and it also kind of feels sometimes semi-normal, because, you know, we wouldn't take a newborn, you know, to a Seahawks game. We wouldn't take her to the grocery store. She would be home, you know, like screaming because we're doing 5 minutes of tummy time. And so she's just growing like how she should be. And so she's just such a great yeah, like I said, it's just such a great source of light and growth and like a little bit of normalcy. And so she, like, when I think about what I'm grateful for, she is like at the very top of the, like, she's almost the only thing on the list because she's just that important. So that's definitely what I'm grateful for.
Shelby, you don't have a photo handy, do you?
No, I don't. I don't bring my phone in here so I don't get
Well,
distracted.
nice aunt.
Yeah, she looks nothing like me because my sister looks nothing like me, but she's so cute and she's a hefty child. Like she's 13 pounds. And so she is hard to hold on to, but like I will wait until my arms are like shaking and about to go numb. Like I will hold her until I'm about to pass out. But yeah.
Well, she's a little bundle of hope, you know.
Exactly.
All of these children that have been born in this are just a symbol that, you know, it's the circle of life, you know. I mean, this is a beautiful thing. And then, you know, in 20 years, you can go, well, you ought to be grateful. We got through this pandemic, honey. So always use it.
Could I just say one thing?
Irene, of course you may.
I
Jump in.
just want to observe deep, profound gratitude for one of my oldest friends who is here listening today.
Oh!
This is a woman I just love. She's a sister to me. This is Ann Strohmeyer down there. And she has been such a grand companion in life.
Oh.
She makes me laugh. She's got really incisive questions. She's a wonderful writer. Anyway, I just want to give her a great big virtual hug of gratitude right now. And thanks for showing up, Ann.
Thank you,
Well,
Ann.
Well, thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed all of this and listening. And speaking of doing things and being grateful, while listening and watching through the miracle of technology, I have been chopping peppers and onions and garlic for dinner and multitasking in a just wonderful way. So I'm very grateful for all this. And I did mute myself so you wouldn't hear the chopping and the things I was doing. But yes, Irene and I have been friends for many, many years. And it is just a wonderful thing. I have 3 brothers and no sisters. So Irene is my sister. And it's been great. It's been great. And will continue to be great.
Yes,
So,
ma'am. Yes,
and
ma'am.
I've enjoyed listening to all of you very much.
Thank you for being here. And I think that was an invitation to dinner, wasn't it, for all of us? We're all headed over there.
Okay. As long as we're all 6 feet apart, I'll just toss the food at you.
I'm good with that.
No casseroles, though. No green beans.
Oh, Marlena just said that she has to go. I just saw that. Oh, she just already went. It is 2:30. It is the top of the hour. This has been everything I thought Thanksgiving would be. So I'm so grateful. Irene and Ronnie, thank you. Thank you.
My
So
pleasure. My
much.
pleasure. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, whatever it looks like to you.
Yes.
With or
Yes.
without green bean
Yes,
casserole.
thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Big
To
joy.
all of you.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you and thank Mango. I just want to put Mango into our big bowl of gratitude right now. Gosh, I know I can speak for everyone. We love Mango and so grateful. Thank you to all of you who are here. And we will be taking a break next week for Thanksgiving, but we'll be back on December 2nd. And just love to all of you.
You too, Sherry. Thank you.
Thank you,
Take care,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.